So today I did a sketch, and before that session, I had to buy a couple of pens. This one is a Sharpie, a regular Sharpie, black with those a bit more broader type of tips, and something very fine. So I did bring my sketchbook that day, and this is a cotton paper made of Arches brand of paper. It's a watercolor paper at roughly about 180 grams per square meter, if I'm not mistaken. And I made this into a custom sketchbook. So right now you're seeing me sketching directly by just looking at shapes and just mimicking shapes of people at that cafe and just doing impressions very quickly. So this process took me about roughly about 15 minutes, all in all, with watercolor and just doing this quick sketching technique of just looking at shapes, proportioning these shapes to each other, and just drawing the lines very quickly. So, like here, I'm drawing out the head first, or the hair part, and then followed by the face, and just shaping it. This is the arm, the chest area, and then that's part of the table. So I was outside of this cafe, um, open air, and drawing people is a good practice though. And it's the reason why that I'm not taking a picture or aiming the camera at them at the moment. It's just to be respectable, and and it's kind of rude if you do point and record taking pictures of them without permission. So here I'm just sketching. Sketching is just less intrusive uh, way to observe people. Here I'm applying the thicker lines to differentiate objects to one another or spatially from one another. Spatially means it's just that uh, these elements are at different distances. So I'm noting those with thicker lines. So I'm going to be using just three colors, the lightest being this raw sienna. It's a sort of light brown, and I'm mixing this, so I'm directly watercoloring onto the paper here. So I'm starting out with something that is a bit more lighter. So when you apply watercolor, it's supposed to be the lightest first, or the first initial wash, and then you work on to darker or more pigment ratio. And then the second color that I'm going to be using here is burnt sienna. You can see there. So I'm darkening these spaces while the initial wash was too wet, and just dropping in more intense pigments right here. So I'm using a number 6 round sable brush, one of my travel brushes to just spread those pigments. And the third color is a French ultramarine. Here I'm mixing it with the burnt sienna, but here you could see me mixing it with a raw sienna color, and to produce a good sort of gray. I'm adding more of the French ultramarine and just fusing it with this raw sienna. This is a nice way to produce some sort of gray tone, and you don't need to use something like a black pigment because that will be too overwhelming. And the stuff that you're gonna be seeing next is me mixing the French ultramarine with the darker brown, which is the burnt sienna, to contrast the picture. So that's the mix that you see. Now, let me just discuss a bit more on the mixing pigment and water ratio. So the first one that you see up there is more of the T type, which is lower in pigment. So as I go down, I'm increasing the amount of pigment to the water. As you can see here, I have 4 tones of the raw sienna. I guess you could say that these consistencies are equated to tea, coffee, creamer, and honey. So as a contrast, let me just show you an application of brewed coffee onto the paper. On the right mouse, as you can see, it's kind of weak and it's not advisable for you to use coffee as medium. Here I'm demonstrating something more intense with lesser water. And I'm just picking up the pigment straight from the pan. And it's advisable that you have 2 cups of water, one for cleaning and one for picking up fresh water, and just to make cleaner mixes. Here you can see the sketch results by using those 2 types of lines, the pigment consistencies, and a bit of pigment mixings. You do have to remember that a sketch is an incomplete drawing, and this style of drawing is great for observing places, people, animals, things very quickly, and with just a fast watercolor application, you could do wonderful sketches that are lively and interesting. So I do hope that you learned something here with the how I sketch quickly and how I color them with watercolor. So until the next video, thank you.